Breaking news, the New York Times is reporting tonight that President Trump ordered officials to give his son-in-law and his senior advisor, Jared Kushner, a top-secret security clearance last year. Now, keep in mind that he did this even though intelligence officials and the top White House lawyer said that he shouldn't. It alarmed the then chief of staff, John Kelly, so much that he wrote an internal memo. And the memo was about how he had been, quote, ordered, this was the word he used, to give Kushner the top-secret clearance. Then the White House counsel, Don McGahn, also wrote a memo detailing all the concerns that had been raised about giving Kushner the security clearance. So, just to be clear here, so the President of the United States goes ahead and says, orders it, according to John Kelly, going against his own intelligence officials and the White House counsel, gives Kushner the security clearance. That's a problem. But then, on top of it, it appears he lied about it. Here he is just last month, and his daughter echoing what he said just a couple weeks ago.
Tell General Kelly or anyone else in the White House to overrule security officials, the career?
No, I don't think I have the authority to do that. I'm not sure I do, but I wouldn't do it. Jared's a good. I was never involved with his security. I know that he, just from reading, I know that there was issues back and forth about security for numerous people, actually, but I don't want to get involved in that stuff.
The president had no involvement pertaining to my clearance or my husband's clearance.
Okay, well, let's go now to one of the reporters who contributed to the story, Matt Rosenberg, national security reporter for the New York Times. Our White House correspondent, Caitlin Collins, also joins us, and former FBI Special Agent Asha Rangappa. All right, Matthew, let me start with you. Look, it's pretty amazing, right? I was never involved with the security. I know just from reading. Well, it appears from the reporting that you all are putting out, not only did he know that John Kelly felt that it was a, quote, order from the president to give Kushner that security clearance. Tell me about it.
I mean, at this point, I think the president, we have to ask, does the president understand the process? What we were told is that, Jared had numerous problems. They went back to the very beginning of the administration. Finally, last year, the president said he'd give him a security clearance and that John Kelly understood it to be an order. He wrote a memo about it at that time. In addition, Don McGahn, the White House counsel, wrote a memo outlining kind of the issues here. And yet, because the president definitely does have the authority to order somebody to be given a clearance, Mr. Kushner and Ivanka Trump both got their clearances.
So the president is saying he was not involved at all. I mean, that's clearly false, right? John Kelly interpreted it to be an order. Even if perhaps that word is a matter of interpretation, the president was not being honest when he said to you all, when he was in that interview in the Oval Office with Maggie a couple weeks ago, when he said, I was never involved with his security. I know just from reading. That's not true.
Yeah. I mean, our reporting directly contradicts that. And we know from multiple intelligence officials that there were numerous concerns raised by the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, about Kushner's dealings with foreign businessmen who had ties to their own country's intelligence services, concerns about his judgment, whether he had the proper discretion to be trusted with American secrets, whether he had entanglements overseas in potential business opportunities that would create situations in which he could potentially be compromised.
I mean, Asha, we know there's been reporting, right, that there were at least 4 countries, Mexico, China, the UAE, Russia, that, had felt that they could use Jared Kushner in some way, right? He updated his security clearance form and it included 100 contacts with foreigners that he had not included. These are the issues, among others, that were with his security clearance. What do you make of this reporting from Matt and the New York Times?
Well, Aaron, we were trained in the FBI to conduct security clearances, and there are 9 different areas that agents will ask about when they do this. It's character, associates, reputation, loyalty, ability, finances, bias, alcohol, and drugs. And anything that raises concerns in any of these areas could be a reason to delay your clearance. The 2 most common reasons to delay or deny a security clearance are either financial issues or foreign influence. And these are the 2 things that Jared pinged on. And the reason here is that A, you don't want someone who has either divided loyalties or people who can compromise you or have any kind of leverage over you in a financial capacity. So it's really astonishing that these concerns, which were raised by multiple agencies, were not heeded. And I think it kind of goes to how much this administration really cares about the trustworthiness of the people who hold this sensitive information. And of course, the ultimate arbiter is the person sitting at the top.
And Caitlin, I mean, you hear obviously the reporting here that he went against the recommendations, very clear recommendations, and had them do it anyway. And then, I guess, let me just replay it because I want everyone to hear it, right? The reporting is that there's these memos that Kelly was ordered by the president to go ahead and give the clearance to Jared Kushner. And then this was a year ago. And then a few weeks ago, the president is directly asked about it by Matt and his colleague, Maggie Haberman. Let me play it.
Tell General Kelly or anyone else in the White House to belittle security officials, the career.
No, I don't think I have the authority to do that. I'm not sure I do, but I wouldn't do it.
You never.
Jared's a good. I was never involved with his security. I know that he, just from reading, I know that there was issues back and forth about security for numerous people, actually, but I don't want to get involved in that stuff.
The president had no involvement pertaining to my clearance or my husband's clearance.
So the reporting now directly contradicts every single thing that they just said, Caitlin. Does the president, when he said this a few weeks ago, he knew it was untrue? You just think nobody would look into it? It wouldn't matter, no one would find out, but he wasn't telling the truth, it seems?
Well, and that's what's fascinating if the president was operating under that impression, because Jared Kushner's security clearance, as well as Ivanka Trump's, has been a subject of discussion since last spring when all of this came to the forefront because of Rob Porter, that staff secretary who was accused of domestic abuse. His security clearance, he was having trouble securing one, which is unusual for that staff secretary job where you handle so much paperwork. And that's what put attention on Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump's security clearances. Now, Aaron, at the time, our reporting showed that they were actually blaming John Kelly, the chief of staff, for the holdup in their security clearances because they thought that he had something against them because they were the president's children. There have been questions about whether or not they should be working in the West Wing, and they had blamed John Kelly for it. So it's interesting, based on this reporting from the New York Times, it was actually the president who ordered John Kelly to be the one to authorize them to get this security clearance so they could operate under this. So it raises a lot of questions about that role. Also, Aaron, I'd like to point out that right now, Jared Kushner is on a tour through the Middle East, pitching his Middle East peace plan right now to several countries. And now that is something he only had access to some of that information because of the security clearance he got. Because before this, he just had secret, which isn't enough to get access to all the information he would need for that.
And Asha, there's also the issue of there are now people actively leaking things from the now former chief of staff and White House counsel, these memos, which the president no doubt thought would not get out. Now these kinds of things are coming out.
Yeah, I think what is important here is that, look, at the end of the day, the president does have the authority to make this kind of decision. This is something that people should consider when they decide who becomes the president. If that person is not trustworthy, then they may have people who are not trustworthy to get clearances. But the problem here is that he continues to demonstrate a lack of transparency. If you're going to make a decision, then at least be accountable for it. And I think he believes that he's unaccountable. And the fact that these people continue, whether it's in the FBI or John Kelly and his own administration, to have to document it tells you how beyond the pale they believe these decisions are.
All right. Thank you all very much. Poignant final words there. If you don't think someone's trustworthy, then you should consider whether you want them to be the person deciding on security clearances.